Powered by Riverside.
What's up, everybody? It is 2 o'clock. Not this time. 2 o'clock on a Monday. It's the Bullpen. I'm Tony Mack. That's Lucas joining me again today. Ricky on his way back from Las Vegas. I believe just got on his flight. Just took off right before we went live. He's in for a rude awakening when he gets back to Alabama because it is gross.
It's
outside.
so gross.
It is disgusting outside. However, I haven't heard anything in terms of the light show not going on, so we will still.
Yeah, no, still good for the light show. We canceled it last week just because the winds were really high and it was like actually like really nasty weather system versus just like it's just raining.
Sure.
So good to go. Light shows, rain or shine. Hope you come on out. TrashPandasChristmas.com.
Yeah, we're not gonna take a light show day away from you this week. We're gonna get you guys in and out here. If you haven't been out here yet, don't let the rain stop you. Just be careful because idiots don't just stop being idiots because it's raining on the road. So be careful if you're going to come out here. But you can still hang out at the light show. I'll be here. I'm not working on the outside. I'll be on the Winter Wonderland on the inside over here by the fire pits, which I'm sure will be coveted by a lot of people. We're not doing the wood fire pit tonight because of all the rain, but we do have all the propane wood pits, or excuse me, fire pits that we're going to have up. So come hang out. Hot chocolate is going to be premium as well, I'm sure. All the food, it's going to be great. So just you might get a little wet, but you can come check out the light show. It's going to be a lot of fun. We've got a lot going on to discuss in the world of sports. We still got the giveaways from last week, the ones that listen on the podcast. I do have those texts. We'll get to those probably about halfway through the podcast. I gave away a Sunny DeShera t-shirt live last week, signed Sunny DeShera t-shirt. Gave away a Colton Ingram bat to Robert, who I don't think was actually listening at the time, but he had been listening. Robert actually won the bat, the Colton Ingram bat. I still have another Sunny D shirt, another Colton Ingram bat, and a Sunny DeShera bat that we're going to give away. I'm going to give away one of the Sunny bats and the other Colton bat to the listeners on the recorded podcast a little later in the show. I do have those texts pulled up. If you ever want to text in, whether it be live when you're watching on YouTube as we record this, or if you ever want to just weigh in on whatever we're discussing, even if you're just listening to the recording and the live has already passed, that's totally fine. The text messages come to my phone through my email. It's a Google Voice, so you can always text in. You can always get at us on Twitter. I'm at Tony Trash Panda. I always want to go back to my old one because it was my Twitter handle for like 6 years. But at Tony Trash Panda for me, TONY. At Tricky Ricky RCTP, even though he's not on the pod today. Lucas, you plug your handle?
No, we don't need to.
You don't have to plug
at Trash Pandas. As
go.
I'm the social media manager, so just tweet out our regular account. You don't need to know my personal account.
So if you want Lucas, just hit up the Trash Pandas.
You can Google it
on
it's
Twitter.
Not that hard to find.
Yeah, probably. Well, I mean, if you can spell Dolangowski, you'll nail it. So you'll be able to get that. Bigger war. Actually, before we get to the college football stuff, the World Cup stuff, while we're talking about the Trash Pandas and the Christmas light show, huge awards going down here at Toyota Field. I mean, our groundskeeper, if you've ever been to a game, I know we're redoing the field now. All the grass is out there and they're getting it set. Great day for it, I guess, with all the rain.
Yeah.
Getting it ready to go. But you always see our grounds crew. You always see them working hard. Anybody that works here knows you have to stay off the grass because Charlie's very particular about his field. But he's very good at what he does. And what he does has, blossomed into a few awards. Not only did he win, was it Southern League?
Southern League, yeah.
Southern League Groundskeeper of the Year. And I don't know if you know how many teams are in minor league baseball. It's a lot. He won minor league baseball Groundskeeper of the Year. That is insane. 120
minor league teams.
He's
number one out of 120. He also, these are some little like inside stats too. Each of the leagues, they go around to each of the ballparks, and your field gets graded on a bunch of different categories out of a scale of 5. And our field was the only one in the Southern League. I don't know about the other leagues. Only field in the Southern League to get a 5 out of 5 grade. So obviously that factored into Charlie winning that award too. Shout out Colby Hunter, who's our assistant groundskeeper
That's
too,
right.
and our game day grounds crew. Who we most of them are pretty consistent throughout the year. We have a few that rotate in depending on where they are in high school or college or whatever. Total team effort. Shout out to our grounds crew. They grind every single day,
Oh my gosh.
especially during the season. Um, and they're gonna have a beautiful brand new grass even for next season. So it's gonna look even better going into 2023.
The grass went in so much faster than I thought it would. I mean,
That's how good they are.
It was put in last week. Like, it was done last week. They did the infield in like a day, and then they were like, "Yeah, we'll spend the next couple days on the outfield." It's all in, and now they just have to work on getting it to grow and being able to cut it right for the season and everything. But it's in. It's ridiculous. I was wondering how quick this was, what kind of a process this was going to be, knowing we'd have to change everything in the off season, and it went by so fast. And I don't know. Like, I would imagine a lot of that has to do with how good the grounds crew is, but I don't know how much of what they did and how quick they did it was normal, because we have literally the best grounds crew. So, yeah, if you guys are ever at it, and I've had plenty of people at the light shows tell me, I worked one on Saturday, when they look out here, they're like, "Man, this place is just so nice. It's so nice." Well, it's nice because we have so many people here, whether it's the grounds crew or the people that do the events in the off season and even during the season, care a lot about it. Like, when we're here, we care a lot about this place, and we try to clean it up and make it presentable for everyone and make it a fun place for you guys to come. So, congratulations to Charlie again, and Colby again, and the game day grounds crew for winning that award. That is amazing. Not only the Southern League, but the minor league groundskeeper of the year goes to Charlie. That is amazing. Another something else that's amazing or I guess is the offseason sports generally. College football, this time of year, even though we've got the playoffs set, you're going to see guys hit the transfer portal. You're going to see coaching changes, recruits flip because the early signing period's on its way here in a week or so. So all of that happening in college football, that's a busy time for that sport. But baseball's in its off season. People moving teams, changing teams. Actually, we saw the other day Jacob DeGrom not going back with the Mets. He's signing with the Rangers. And you're thinking, the Mets lost one of their guys. They had their best season in like 100 years, and they didn't even win the division. Now they're losing their guy. Well, they got a pretty good guy in return. 2 years. He's old, but he's still pitching well. 2 years, Justin Verlander.
Yeah, he literally just won the Cy Young and a World Series, so I think he's still all right.
Yeah,
He's
still
doing
pretty
all
good.
right with an just absurdly low ERA this past season. So yeah, great replacement. Plus, he's been healthier than DeGrom has been.
Yeah, that's
Over
true.
the past. Well, I mean, I guess 2 years ago, Verlander was out for a lot of this season, but this year was unbelievable. So yeah, Mets getting after it again. Steve Cohen, no problem throwing around the big bucks.
You ever want to get mad at a guy for just having it all? That's a guy you can get mad at. I mean, he's got to be pushing 40 if he's not already there, right?
Verlander?
Yeah.
I think he's 39.
Okay. He's on the verge of 40. He's still in an absolute elite pitcher in Major League Baseball. Won the Cy Young, the best at his position. Won the World Series, the best team in Major League Baseball, and he's married to Kate Upton. Like, if you want
he's gonna be a first ballot Hall of Famer whenever he retires too.
So if you want to hate on a guy for like having it all, that's the guy, because he's got everything. I mean, but good for him. I hate it that it's the Mets, but I mean, they've got to do something. The Mets have to figure something out, because again, it was their best regular season in forever, and the Braves still won that division. The Mets did nothing in the postseason. So
yeah, now you're bringing in a guy with like just an unbelievable amount of postseason experience. Like that in itself is great. Like then you also have that he's arguably the best pitcher in baseball. Like it's a pretty good pickup. It actually might be a gosh, is that an upgrade to DeGrom? Like on paper, it kind of is. Like
I would say, yeah, just based off of what we saw this last season, yes, absolutely. I mean,
DeGrom just hasn't stayed healthy, and that's
Mhm.
tough. But it's a good gamble by the Rangers to grab him though too.
Yeah, and not only like career wise, can you look at how good he's been? He's won and I think 3 Cy Youngs. Like you just mentioned, he just won one, and he just won a World Series, and his ERA was ridiculous. So he's not only been great for his entire career, he's still really, really good. So I don't really see how you can look at that as a negative. And it's not like the Mets long term broke the bank. They're paying him a lot. The 2 years they're getting him, 2 years, 86 million, so 43 million a year. That's a lot of money, but it's a 2-year commitment. So you have to lock him down long term.
Yeah, and speaking of guys at age 40, that's how long on paper the Phillies will get Trey Turner for. That just broke recently. Trey Turner, 11 years, 300 million
My
to
goodness.
the Phillies. So the NL East continues to come after the Braves in this regard. And the Phillies, obviously, who just got to the World Series, like you may as well go for it again because they didn't even have a good regular. I mean, not that good of a regular season.
Yeah.
They snuck into the wild card and whatnot, but.
Yeah, they were record wise they were comparable to the Braves in 21, but the Braves in 21, even though they had a similar record to the Phillies, the Braves actually won the division in 21 and went to the World Series. Phillies had to get in as a wild card and do it. It was a heck of a run. The NL East has been really good in the postseason these last few years. The Nationals won a World Series in 2019. The Braves made it to the NLCS in 2020, all the way to a Game 7. They won the World Series in 21. And then you had three of the four teams make the playoffs, or three of the five teams make the playoffs, and then you had the Phillies make it to the World Series. So
Nationals rebuilding, but they won a World Series a few years ago, and then the Marlins.
yay, they're still around. They're still doing well. Good for
They
them.
just Alcantara won the Cy Young, so good for them.
They can say that they're in the best division in baseball, one of the best divisions in baseball.
So yeah, MLB Hot Stove kicking up. I'm excited. This is as the folks who work in baseball. This is our fun time of year to keep an eye on things because, some people, whether it's the Angels might make trades. We don't know. I'm literally just this is not insider info. But like that's a possibility. It was like your team, your parent club gets new guys or possible prospects that could come play for the Trash
Sure.
Pandas, or guys that have played for the Trash Pandas go to other teams. So that's always exciting as well. And we're still waiting on the Aaron Judge decision here. Winter meetings have started, and the Yanks and Giants are still the front runners, but we'll see what happens with that.
And if you're Braves fans, you know that for the most part, that infield and outfield have been locked up long term. The big positions there, except Dansby Swanson, he turned down that deal. I believe he's in free agency, so you have to look out what he's going to get offered. Is he realistically coming back at all? Who are the Braves going to get to fill him up? So that's a big position for Braves fans to pay attention to this offseason as well. I'll be locked into that one. If you are listening on YouTube live where we are right now, feel free to comment to the bigger commenters. Always are Ethan Darby and Robert Ashley. Ethan actually says, "Hey, did Ricky get a haircut? He looks shorter. It's a different person, Ethan, but good eye." Robert says, "Hello, Robert. By the way, you want a bat? Okay." He says, "I'm here. You need my address. Yeah, you can like DM it to me on Twitter. But yes, I'm gonna need your information to get you that bat for sure." Um, and he says, Verlander is 39 or 40. He went to Old Dominion while my adopted sister Laurel was there. Oh, really? I didn't know he went to Old Dominion. That's one
the
sport.
Monarchs.
In basketball, in the NBA, there's like an era where I could sit there and tell you a majority of where the guys went to college, some of the bigger ones. Nowadays, it gets a little more confusing for me because I don't watch it as much. NFL, I do okay, especially the bigger schools. Major League Baseball, I'm shot.
Well, yeah, there's there's a balance of like a bunch of guys that didn't go to college at all, which would be tough too because it'd be like I'd
What
try
high
to like
school?
guess them. Well, not even what high school, but I would be trying to like guess colleges, and then someone would be like, "Ah, no, they didn't go to college actually." Like,
Yeah, don't waste my time.
okay.
Don't try to trick question me when you're like, "Hey, where'd he go to college?" If he didn't go to college, because I'm going to guess a million colleges before I go. Well, did he go to college? So
What's nice is that college baseball has elevated itself so much over the past decade that like there's a lot more guys that are coming out of college and not like straight from high school. So I think I would do that. Might be a good future segment.
Yeah, it would be. It'd be a lot of fun. It's cool too because I'm paying a little more attention, especially with the Trash Pandas. I know obviously Sonny DeShera went to Auburn. Ben Joyce went to Tennessee. I know Bryce Teodosio out in our center field went to Clemson. So those are three right off the rip. I got those. Probably couldn't tell you
It's fun to
anymore
get.
right now,
It's fun to get some college guys. Actually, most of the guys on our team from last season were not high school guys. So it's fun to kind of get those. A lot of them probably played in Omaha, which that's always fun too. Zach
True.
Humphreys with TCU.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm excited to see who we get next year.
Hump went to TCU, huh?
Yep.
Good for him, but he's having a good time with the playoff right now.
Oh yeah, he
Oh, yeah.
is.
Good
So
for
did
him.
our athletic trainer from this past season, Henry. He was a TCU grad as well.
No way. The Hypnotoads.
Oh yeah,
They're in. Look at that. That's a lot of fun for
they
them.
are in deservingly.
We're going to talk about that in just a second. Another one. Torrey Hunter Jr. went to Notre Dame. I knew that one too.
Oh yeah,
Don't I
football
now?
Notre Dame.
Yeah, football Notre Dame. Now I legitimately don't think I know anymore. I did not know Hump went to TCU. But yeah, Major League Baseball offseason's getting a little weird right now. College football is just insane, but it's expected to be insane this time of year. The first thing that's going down is the college football playoff is set. USC getting blown out on Friday night was interesting. So that one, just to start there, that's what started all of the chaos, right? Because not only did USC losing put Ohio State in, Ohio State needed one of those teams to lose. It helped TCU big time because TCU are not only people tried to create some drama between TCU and Alabama, but as you saw, it wasn't even a conversation because TCU didn't move and Alabama's still at 5. They went up one spot to 5. Yeah, the whole conversation was Ohio State, Alabama. Don't know how you could have put Alabama over Ohio State in a week where Ohio State was already ranked above them and neither one of them played. And when Michigan beat Purdue. So they didn't. That was the playoff. But USC had a chance. They were the team that had a chance and lost, and it actually meant something. TCU losing didn't mean anything to them, obviously, because they're still in the same spot they would have been in. But I could not have predicted Utah spanking USC the way that they did. It's tough to beat the same team twice, especially when you had to do it on a 2-point conversion and an offense that's as talented as that. But we've got to stop saying that when it comes to Utah.
And with the team that's you're facing the team who's on the precipice of going to the college football
Sure.
playoff, you're just like, yeah,
Heisman
they're
Trophy
just
winner,
not gonna-
probably.
like, yeah, a win puts them in the playoff and locks up Caleb Williams Heisman, and like that didn't happen.
It didn't happen. And you also, again, last year with Georgia and Alabama, it's, Alabama spanks them in the SEC championship game. It probably meant more to them anyway, but Georgia gets the revenge on them. That's the old saying that you'll always hear is it's tough to beat the same team twice. And usually that's very true. It does, you know, make it harder that second go around, except for Utah. We've got to stop saying that with them because not only did they beat USC twice this year, they spanked Oregon both times they played them last year as well. So, I mean, and TCU found out the hard way that it is tough to play the same team twice because they lost to Kansas State. But Utah last year spanked Oregon in the regular season, spanked them in the Pac-12 championship game, beat USC in a 2-point conversion this year, and then spanked them in the Pac-12 championship.
And then the two team, like you think of like the Pac-12 of just right off the top of your head is like those are the two powerhouses of USC and Oregon, at least over the past decade plus. And yeah, Utah just has their number, and that's why they've won the last two Pac-12 titles because they're flexing, and they've been to this is their 5th straight New Year's 6 bowl game too for Utah.
Is that 5 in a row?
Yep.
Oh my goodness! I know they've had several 9-10 win seasons the last few years. What a job Kyle Whittingham has done too. You go back
the fact
to
that he hasn't get it like Utah's a very good job, but like
right.
I'm surprised his name hasn't popped up for like some of these other
Right, because
bigger jobs, like Auburn. I don't know, for example.
He's been at Utah since Urban Meyer left, and they were in like the whack when that happened. So not only does Urban Meyer leave, and then he does his own BCS Buster thing by beating Alabama in the Sugar Bowl, and then he takes Utah and ushers them into a Power 5 conference in the Pac-12. Stays there forever, sticks it out. Has a few years before he wins his Pac-12 championship where he's gained a lot of respect. People thought Utah was going to be good and make a playoff even before they ever won a Pac-12 championship. And then finally, he gets it done last year and then turns around and gets it done this year. Now, it is still a little bit of a letdown for some because some people thought Utah was going to be in the playoff. So if I were to tell you that Utah was going to win the Pac-12 championship this year, you would have thought that meant a playoff berth.
Well,
but they still have won back-to-back. That's amazing.
And then you make the argument of what did they end up with, 2 losses?
Utah 3, I think.
Well, they're currently at 8 in the college football playoff standings. They lost week 1 to Florida when they probably should have won that game. They're on the 5-yard line with a touchdown wins the game, and they threw a pick.
Yeah.
So they're one play away from beating Florida and putting up another win there. I admittedly forgot who their other
I can't
losses
remember.
were too, but that's like an easy one. And Florida fans, as I am one, all season with the disappointment of Florida, like like every week that Florida's like dropped like an embarrassing game to Vandy perhaps, or
Mm.
given up almost 50 points to Florida State, who's turned out to be pretty good too. But just some of the weird losses that Florida's had, like every week is just like, how did they beat Utah? Like Utah's so good, and how it makes no sense. Who are the other? Oh,
UCLA by
UCLA.
10 and
Yeah,
Oregon by a field goal.
yeah.
So
So they're kicking themselves on a couple, especially the Oregon and the Florida games, because a one-loss Utah is in the playoff right now.
all three on the
Those,
road, by the way,
yeah.
in the swamp, at UCLA and
And
at
they'll get
Oregon.
Florida will go there next year to start the year too,
Mm.
so they'll have a
Is
redemption shot.
what's his face still gonna be the quarterback at Utah?
Cam Rising,
Yeah, eligibility wise, I have no
I thought
clue
he's
what
like
that's like.
is he like 27 years old?
I
That's
feel
what
like
that's how I feel. I know he's not that.
I feel like he's a grad assistant playing quarterback for Utah.
He's 23, so and he's a junior,
Oh my
so
god!
he technically still could come back.
Of course he could.
Oh,
Oh,
right. He's a Texas kid. He redshirted 2018 Texas, transferred in 19 to Utah, then has played the last 3 years, been the starter the
2020
last
didn't
two.
count.
Right. So he has another year of eligibility left technically.
My
I don't know what his NFL prospects are. Like
I don't think it's going to be great. I mean, he could definitely come back. I mean, if you look at other quarterbacks that have been a little older and gone pro, I mean, Joe Burrow's one that you can look at and brag about a little bit, who's a little older. He'll be, what, 24 next year, 24,
that's
25
like
by the time the
old,
draft
yeah.
rolls around. Just depends on what he does. Might be worth taking a flyer. He
This
looks
is
like
why this is where my brain went. So I pulled up if you guys remember Charlie Whitehurst, longtime backup, like good little career in the
clipboard Jesus, right?
NFL in terms of how many years was he in the league?
A while. He played for the Titans for a little bit, I believe. I remember the year he played for the Titans.
He played 10 years in the league. Like that's a good career. That's a fantastic career in the NFL.
Yeah.
And so my brain, like Cam Rising looks like Charlie Whitehurst, and I'm like, yeah, he could be a serviceable backup for 10 years, like given what I've seen him, how I've seen him play.
He looks like Charlie Whitehurst and Gardner Minshew had a child.
Yeah, that's a fair
Because he
assessment.
looks like Charlie Whitehurst smokes menthols. For sure. I mean, especially if you hear him talk
He's
after the
good.
post
He's
game.
been really good though.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not hating on the kid at all. I
Yeah.
actually love what he had to say after the game when he found out that Caleb Williams painted his nails. So Caleb Williams has been doing that since last year at Oklahoma in the Texas game. I think his mom or maybe his family like owns a salon. So he's always painted his nails, and he painted last year. I remember seeing it for Texas. He had like the Longhorn logo on some fingers, and then he had like FU and then UT, and then of course this weekend he had the word, and then on his other fingers he
The
had Utah spelled out.
four-letter curse word.
Yeah, so
But yeah, he's been doing that the whole season, and yeah, that's a perfect response if you're Cam Rising or any team that's like playing him. You're just like, yeah, whatever.
he said that's
it's what he
cute.
does. Like, yeah, exactly. Especially when you win. Um,
That was great.
yeah,
It was awesome. So Utah, happy for them, happy for Kyle Whittingham. I'm happy for the playoff, happy for TCU. I'm happy that people weren't pressured in the committee to bumping them out. And here's why: like, there's two different arguments, and the committee this year obviously went for the most deserving team. And I'm okay with that. And here's why: if you want to make an argument that the best four teams should get into the playoffs, so if you think Alabama is one of the best four teams in college football, I'm not necessarily going to disagree with you on a yearly basis. But if you think they are one of the best four teams this year, and you think that the best four teams should get in, then one of the best four teams needs to take care of business almost all the time, or it's not fair. Like you're taking away from the regular season at that point. If you were to put Alabama in over TCU, you're taking away from the regular season. Alabama's regular season at that point means absolutely nothing. As long as you still feel like they're one of the best four teams, that's an objective thing you feel. And you can look at their talent and say that they're getting healthier because they had the week off. You can always say, based on their talent, that Alabama is going to be one of the best four teams because they're going to have some of the best talent in all of college football. So their regular season at that point, if you think that one of the best four teams is going to get in, regardless of what they did on the field, then their schedule means zero anymore. So they made the right decision.
well, yes, an argument I saw a bunch on Twitter this weekend of like Alabama would beat TCU or X team would beat X team, like whatever they would beat them type deal.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
if you're gonna make that argument, then don't play any games. in
Exactly.
the regular season than just like at the start of the year, just pick the best 4 teams and be like, then do the playoffs in September. Like, then what are we doing?
I'm with you. Like,
That's the point
that's
of
the
it.
argument I
It's
saw.
not about the most. It's who's the best teams. It's about who had the best resume and who deserves to be in.
Two things, or I'll go with three things here. Two things. Number one, you have if Alabama would be favored in every matchup in the college football play, they'd be favored over TCU. They'd be favored over Ohio State. They'd be favored over Michigan. They were also favored over LSU by 2 touchdowns, and they were also favored over Tennessee. They lost both of those games away from home. Away from home. Alabama stinks away from home this season. They do. They do not play well away from home. Common opponent. TCU beat Texas 17-10 in Austin with Quinn Ewers. Alabama was going to get spanked by Texas with Quinn Ewers had he not got hurt on the second series of the game. So there's some comparables there. The other thing, you had me thinking in one certain direction, and it slipped out of my head again. Alabama would beat TCU, blah, 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 blah. They're favored. You got to win. Well, why do we play the games? Like you had mentioned. Again, your season, why did we play a season this year? If you're going to say, well, right now, even though Alabama lost those games, Alabama would beat TCU, then why in the world did we play?
It's the same.
12,
It's like
12
it's the March Madness thing of like, oh, you got like a really talented like Kentucky team who's like they lose a couple towards the end of the season and they slip to like a 5 seed or something like that. Like, yeah, they're still probably like favored in a bunch of matchups, but that doesn't mean you give them a 2 seed.
Right.
Like, that's not how that works. Like,
no question. And the other thing too, I don't know how to get to it from here, but people were talking about their schedule and TCU's strength of schedule, because they're trying to argue TCU or Alabama over TCU. Well, then you should start, if you're going to go with strength of schedule and things like that, you should start arguing Alabama over anybody else in the playoff. Why aren't you arguing Alabama over Georgia? Why aren't you arguing Alabama over Michigan, Alabama over Ohio State? Because if you go and look at it, TCU's strength of schedule is not better than Alabama's. Their strength of record is pretty good.
yeah, that's the. Do they have a better strength of record too?
They do. TCU has a better strength of record. Their strength of record is number 3. But strength of schedule, Alabama's strength of schedule is 9th in the country. TCU's is 25th. TCU still has the best strength of schedule out of anybody in the playoffs. TCU's strength of schedule is stronger than anybody. Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State. Georgia's strength of schedule is 36. Michigan's is 37. Ohio State's is 39. TCU has the 25th strength of schedule. So stop with that argument too, because if you're going to say Alabama's strength of schedule is better than TCU's, well, okay, well then it's better than everybody else's in the playoffs because TCU has the best strength of schedule out of the 4 teams remaining. They do. It's right there. So, and that's not me saying that I, number one, thought TCU should get in. I wanted them to because I like chaos. I want to see them get a shot. I really didn't care who got in either way. I just wanted to see the chaos happen, and we got a little bit of that. It is weird seeing 2 of the 4 teams in the playoff that lost their last games that they played, but I'm excited that we do get TCU, and I'm excited we get TCU against Michigan too, because that feels like if they're gonna win a game, that's the one. I don't think anybody's touching Georgia right now, and we get Georgia Ohio State. That's a sexy helmet matchup.
Yeah, definitely. And on paper, like that's your marquee.
Oh,
game.
that's your.
And I think of it like Michigan was in the playoff last year and sort of kind of hung with Georgia for a little bit, and Georgia just kind of flexed and pulled away at the end. So like now they have a legitimate game that they could win. I'd be very surprised if it is not Georgia and Michigan in the final, but like
Same.
TCU can hang with Michigan too.
I think Georgia's going to win it all. I know that Michigan's running off that same mentality that Georgia was running off last year, like the revenge, and Georgia got revenge on Alabama in the championship game. Michigan and J.J. McCarthy talking about how the Georgia loss last year fueled them, and that's cool. But number one, you're down your best player, and you're not playing Purdue. I mean, you're going to be playing Georgia, who is probably, even though Michigan's a very talented football team, Georgia's still probably talented over every single position, maybe minus quarterback, but that doesn't even matter because Stetson Bennett's turned out to be pretty good.
That's not even an argument anymore. Like, Stetson Bennett's the guy? Like he's and been that way for
I've been the biggest Stetson Bennett hater until like the first 2 games. Like they smoked Oregon and they kept going. I'm like, he was throwing for like 350 yards a game at the beginning of the season. Like, he's figured something out. So good for them. I think Georgia's the best team. Ethan asked on the YouTube who we thought was going to win the college football playoff. I think it's going to be Georgia. As boring as that is, going back to back, they're so good.
But that makes sense too. Of like I was saying to this is what would be wild because when Tennessee was hot and they were looking like a national title contender at one point in the year too, is like this is just like a Florida perspective. You're just like, all right, Georgia got theirs out of the way, first one since 1980. Like it was looking like Alabama's going to put a scare into that too. Of like they win their first one since '98. And you're like, you know what? Just rip the Band-Aid off and just have them win in consecutive years. Just whatever. Just get it over with. But now Georgia, yeah, and then it's kind of I'll use like Tony Finau as an example for golf. I don't know how many people know this reference, but like Tony Finau took a long time to win his first tournament on the PGA Tour, or he had a huge gap between wins, and now he's won like 5 times in the last like year or so. So sometimes it just like it takes one, and you're like, oh, it helps when you have the number 1 recruiting class and you return a bunch of guys from last season. But yeah, I mean, I'd be appalled if it's not Georgia again. And then you're looking at Stetson Bennett's like one of the all-time great college quarterbacks.
He's going to be one of the greatest stories ever, and he's probably
not like talent-wise, like
yeah,
talent-wise. And I'm doing air quotes for people just listening audio, but like he has 2 national titles. That's like not many people do that.
He's also going to probably, in my mind, some people will say it's I can't remember his name. I'm so sorry. I think it's named the trophy's named after the guy, but is it Burlsworth, the walk-on?
Oh, for
the walk-on award.
The walk-on award.
Yeah, the best walk-on in all of college football history, in my mind, in my opinion, biased here, is Baker Mayfield because he walked on to Texas Tech and then walked on to Oklahoma. And remember, the time he walked on to Oklahoma, that job wasn't open. Trevor Knight, maybe people didn't believe in him. I didn't believe in Trevor Knight at the time. I'm an Oklahoma fan, but most of the world were putting that into perspective, that pressure on Trevor Knight. Like Baker Mayfield transferred to Oklahoma right after Trevor Knight smacked Alabama in the Sugar Bowl. Like, so Trevor Knight hadn't gone there and failed yet. Baker Mayfield transferred and had to sit out a year, the year that Trevor Knight didn't pan out at Oklahoma. But he transferred there right after that game and was like, I'm going to go try to take that guy's job anyway. And then he ends up going and winning the Heisman Trophy again as a walk-on. So I've always thought he's the best walk-on in all of college football history. Stetson wins another national championship and then becomes a Heisman finalist like he might this year. Stetson Bennett's going to be the best walk-on in college football history.
Yeah,
it's going to be hard to dispute that.
I was like looking up like who are the last. AJ McCarron won 2 as a starter for Bama. Is that correct?
Yeah, he won in 11 and 12, right?
Yeah. Tommy Frazier for Nebraska, 94 and 95. Mm-hmm. And those are the last 2 to do it. Tebow's sort of on there since he kind of split with Chris Leak as a freshman in 06.
Yeah, and he was kind of a big part of it.
You kind of put Tebow in like he has 2 national titles. But like that's a really, really short list of guys. Like I'd have to go back and look at some of the other.
I'm trying to think right now at the top of my head.
Like back to back. It's so hard to do.
Are we talking winning back to back or just winning
in general?
Multiple?
Winning 2 national titles is like really, really hard to do. So for Stetson Bennett to do that is absurd.
Yeah,
like
even with the talent that he has, he's obviously like different from last year. He's been a big reason, a big part of that. Like last year, the defense really drove that team, and their offense was good. At times they weren't, but they ended up being pretty good. They had some good weapons. Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey ended up being really good last year. Like this year, Stetson Bennett and that offense are good. Like they're pretty darn good. So it just took that extra step that I didn't think, and a lot of people didn't believe he had in him. If he goes and captures another national championship and it becomes a Heisman finalist, I again, big Oklahoma fan. Baker Mayfield's my favorite college football player ever. Stetson Bennett would be the best walk-on of all time.
Is another one I just thought of too, outside of like Herschel. Herschel is kind of in that his own pantheon. Would Stetson Bennett be the second greatest Georgia football player ever? Like based on resume? That's an insane thing to think about. Like he's not going to go to the NFL and be but I'm just saying like college resume. Herschel won Heisman and
I want to know what Georgia fans
and a national title.
I want to know what Georgia fans are going through. right now. Like the road and the journey they've been on, because they were a lot like me in the offseason when Stetson won. They kind of wanted to see him ride off into the sunset because they have a lot of talent at the quarterback position sitting behind Stetson Bennett, and he didn't do that. And now he might win back-to-back championships and be a big reason why they're going to win a championship this year. Beforehand, it was kind of like the Devontae Smith thing in Alabama. I remember going into the year Devontae Smith won the Heisman, I was doing a radio show, and I don't think Ricky was on at the time, but me and Clint Lamb, guy that covers Bama, were on it. And I had brought up in the summer that I thought Devontae Smith was a very disrespected Alabama wide receiver. Alabama fans weren't giving him the respect that he deserved. He had led the team in either yards or touchdowns in all the years that he's been there, and that was over Henry Ruggs, that was over Judy, and all those guys. And Clint pointed this out to me, and all the Bama fans that called in pointed it out to me too. They're like, "Yeah, but that's because defenses were so focused on Waddle, Judy, Ruggs. They were focused on these other guys. They were taking away from Devontae Smith." I was trying to give him respect, and then Jalen Waddle gets hurt. Devontae Smith blows up, wins the Heisman Trophy, and people are acting like they've been his favorite. That Devontae Smith were their favorite receiver the entire time he's been there. Just the complete 180 they had to do is the same 180 Georgia fans are going to have to do with Stetson Bennett, because we all have the receipts. We all know what everybody thought. I thought the same thing. I believed that Stetson was just a beneficiary of a really good team. This year, he's been a big part of it. So
there were still people going into like before just start of this season that are like, well, they're still pointing out like the same like weird tropes of like, oh, he's small and like he's a walk on, or like that doesn't matter at this point. Like I thought that's out the window when he
should
got
be.
like 10 games into the season of 2021. So yeah, that's an insane proposition that is kind of breaking my brain at this point that he could be the second best Georgia football player of all time.
Oh my gosh, they're gonna try to put some other guys up there, like that they held to a higher esteem. Like, I mean, you've got AJ Green played there.
Yeah, but they didn't do.
I agree.
do
Yeah, I mean,
anything.
obviously they didn't win national championships. Who was it? Aaron Murray was a phenomenal quarterback for Georgia. Matt Stafford played for Georgia, and Stetson Bennett's going to have.
Do they do statues at Georgia? Like, does Herschel have a statue?
I honestly don't know. I would say that he's probably the only one that does, if he does have one.
Or does Dooley? Is there a Vince Dooley statue too?
Maybe I was thinking about players, but if there were, I'm sure there's a Herschel statue somewhere. If there is a Herschel statue, there's got to be a Dooley statue.
There is a Herschel Walker statue. Someone from their art school designed it. Yeah, I think he has one.
Yeah.
On campus here, but
Stetson
Stetson Bennett get a statue. Sorry,
Put it
move
up.
on. This is breaking my brain.
Put it up. Put the statue of Stetson Bennett.
If they win,
yeah, if they have to win another national championship, because then you're talking about, again, 2 championships, and I would say he's going to be invited to New York, right? I haven't been paying attention to the Heisman and all that.
I feel like the Heisman's been all over the place all year. Does Stroud still get invited?
He's in the playoff. He probably will.
Yeah, it's like Stroud. Caleb Williams is still the favorite, I would assume.
Caleb's still going to win it. I think that he's
a
lot, and then he kind of helped himself out a little. He definitely didn't do it on purpose, and I hate to use an injury like that, but that injury helped him. Like, obviously, he was banged up in the second half for sure of that game, limping around, and he still made some amazing plays while being hobbled. So that helps him. You're going to look at him in a little bit of a favorable light, because you're going to feel bad for him. You're like, look, he made some pretty good plays while he was hurt. Maybe the game could have been different or whatever. So I still think that's enough to give him the trophy. So I think Caleb Williams is going to win it, but Stetson might be a finalist, and you have that.
Max Duggan too, probably. Be
yeah, Duggan will be there for sure. So, whatever. I don't know. I'm not the biggest Duggan guy. Like, his story's cool, and he's great with that team. I don't think he's the best player in college football. I don't think he's the best story in college football, but I like what he and TCU are doing. I think all their comeback wins are really cool and everything. But going back to the whole Georgia and their best players, he wins another championship. We're going to put him up there. But you're also going to have to talk about a statue of Kirby Smart before too long, too. And Bama fans are clinging to it. The one thing they can say, and they love Kirby, they're giving him all the respect in the world. But to the people that say that Kirby's the next Nick Saban, they're like, well, hold on. He hasn't actually done it yet. He's on his way, and it looks like it. He hasn't done it yet. It sure looks like he's on his way, though, right? I mean, Dabo won 2 championships and then kind of teetered off a little. So there still is that. That could happen.
Yeah, it's very cyclical. I mean, LSU has dipped multiple times in the past 10 years, and then like bounced back really quickly. So, but yeah, there's a
But the
when
formula's
you're when your
obviously working.
ceiling when your ceiling is now the national title, then like they're gonna be let down sometimes,
For
and that
sure.
even if it's just Alabama losing 2 games, like
Mhm.
that is considered a letdown. So that that still exists, especially with how tough the league is.
Yeah. And then we had the transfer portal stuff happening right now as well. The quarterback room, or excuse me, the quarterback portion of the transfer portal, pretty stacked, pretty thick. Someone DM'd me that earlier today. They were like, "Hey, the transfer portal is thick with two C's." That's a weird way to put it, but you're right. It is. The transfer quarterbacks in the portal right now have some good options. If they want to play high level football, they want to go. The scouts are going to look. Some might look at some SEC schools, but you've got a guy like Keaton Slovis in the portal again. I'm assuming as a grad transfer this time, transfer from USC and then now
Yeah.
transferring away from Pitt. He's going into the portal. Um, you had Devin Leary hit the portal from NC State. Brennan Armstrong, who's he's very talented at Virginia, he's hit the transfer portal. He is out. DJ Uiagalelei from Clemson hit the transfer portal. He's gone. So you got some pretty nice, talented guys there. And I'm curious,
Hudson Card, Texas.
oh, Hudson's out too?
Yep.
Okay, Hudson's gone. I didn't see that one. Hudson Card's out in the portal. So you've got some high profile guys, especially a guy like DJ Uiagalelei and these ACC quarterbacks that are going to get a lot of attention, have a really good pick of where they want to go. Are there going to be any SEC teams interested in these guys? More particularly, I'm so interested to see what Hugh Freeze might do at Auburn. TJ Finley's done. I don't know if he's going to transfer, stick around as backup. He's done. Holden Garriner's probably going to probably stay again. He was a freshman this year.
Calzada's gone.
Calzada's going to go, but
He announced that today.
are you? Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Are you going to stick with Robbie as your guy? Or are you going to invite some competition?
I think you're always open to doing that now with like no sit outs. Like you may as well create competition, and also you don't ever know like what's going to happen if a guy gets hurt. Like you better have a good backup, especially in the SEC. So like depth is huge. Like that's why you recruit multiple quarterbacks over the course of like a few recruiting cycles. Like you got to have like 3 guys in there who can at least like go out in the field and not embarrass themselves. So
speaking of having a good backup, I got to know, you kind of invited the conversation. I don't want to take a shot, but you're a Florida guy, Florida grad. Your guy's gone. He's hitting the NFL draft. Anthony Richardson announced today he's going to the NFL draft. Y'all had a backup. The son of a famous NFL quarterback, John Kitna, his son, Jalen Kitna, got arrested last week for really awful, awful things.
We're going to, if you want to Google it, you can do that.
Yeah, I'm not going to bring it up. I mean,
it's not good.
It's very, very bad, especially like when you read into it. You can say, like, speaking of generalities, it's not exactly how it sounds, but then go and read what happened. It's pretty gross what he did. So
he's gone.
Yeah, he's out of the picture. What's Florida going to do with quarterback?
Florida, Jack Miller, who transferred from Ohio State, has been he's been injured all year, and people have been wanting to see him when like Richardson got a little dinged up or like he had a couple bad games. People were clamoring for Miller, but he's been hurt the whole year, so he's possibly an option for next season. But you asked if you threw Auburn out there. Florida will absolutely be looking for a transfer quarterback because they got the commitment from Jaden Rashada, who flipped from Miami, and he's a 4-star. Pretty good guy coming in, but you'll give him a year, so you're probably gonna grab a rental. Uiagalelei, wow, Uiagalelei is up there from Clemson. Certainly, I know. He was off and on this year, so I don't know how Florida fans would feel about that. I mean, that's a pretty good rental, I feel like.
Yeah.
But like, who you gonna take like Brennan Armstrong or Drake May's name has been tossed around from UNC. I don't know if he's going to transfer.
Billy Napier could use a guy like he likes the guys that can move a little too. Like he's going to want a guy with some legs for sure. But you mentioned DJ Uiagalelei. That guy just needs. I think what he needs now, because you can go back and look at all the tape you want. He's got some talent. I mean, that was abundantly clear. It's been a long time, but back in 2020, when he came in and filled in for Trevor Lawrence. He had confidence, and if things were going right for him. But then he gets the job. There's a lot of pressure on him. The offensive line last year was terrible. It wasn't great this year. So there's that going against him. But then on top of that, his confidence was just shot. There were times where he himself, there were no other factors impeding him. He was just bad at times, especially towards the end of the year, which is why they went to Klubnik for the championship game, and he looked really, really good. That's their guy. DJ, more than anything, needs a shot of confidence. Wherever he goes, he needs a coach that's going to give him that shot of confidence, and I think he could surprise some people and play a little better.
Well, the thing is too is you always have to look at with transfer portal, especially with quarterbacks. Is I would say DJ is would he be probably on paper the best transfer quarterback, at least currently?
On paper, I mean, I would say yes.
I think as a former 5-star,
Former 5-star.
had some very, very good games. Is who's the best team, who's the best program in the top 25 or whatever that is gonna need a quarterback next
Alabama.
year. And yeah, exactly. It's gonna be those three. He's not gonna go to
he's not going to USC.
He's not going to Michigan State, for example.
Yeah.
You're not gonna, because there's plenty of places that he could start pretty much anywhere. So he's gonna have his pick
for sure. Looking down here on the YouTube, Derpy501 says, "Can we talk how soft Jackson Smith and Jigba is for Ohio State by dropping out for the playoff?" I haven't seen too much of that, but following him all year long, he's been hurt a lot this season. So I don't know. You call that soft? I mean, how available is he? Because he's been banged up a lot of the year. He's been in and out of the lineup. So I know he's going to the draft.
Yeah, decision to turn pro was made after I was unable to come back on multiple occasions during the season, and the doctors determined I would be unable to participate in the playoffs. So
there you go. I figured
it. It's probably he could probably push it if he wanted to, but if you're going to be a first-round pick,
yeah, and
I get it.
I don't want to hate on the kid. This isn't hatred towards him at all. But honestly, with the emergence of I can't think of his name. Marvin Harrison Jr. Do you really need him? I mean, of course, it's obviously would be great to have another guy of that caliber, but you don't want to push him back when you have a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr. who's just been amazing this year. And you've got to credit Ohio State for the receivers that they've put out. I mean, the two, Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson in the NFL, are doing really good things. Jackson Smith and Jigba was supposed to be that guy this year, is riddled with injuries, and they didn't have him ready to be that guy this year. And Marvin Harrison Jr. stepped up and was that guy. So wide receiver the last 2 years, arguably, you got to put Ohio State up there. So
yeah, he's just been dinged up. If he was fully healthy, that would be a whole other thing.
It would be weird.
But yeah, this is a interesting comment. I'm gonna have an even bigger impact in the NFL than when I played at OSU. It's he's saying that from his own confidence, from his own point of view of he has a ton of confidence in himself to turn pro. But my brain read that as I didn't even have that much of an impact here at Ohio State.
Well,
it sounds like a backhanded shot. I mean, he's a pretty good contributor, but I mean,
last year in the Rose Bowl was amazing. It was the best thing, one of the best wide receiver performances I've ever seen.
Right.
But man, I mean, they even had Jamison Williams that had to leave because he wasn't getting on the field. So Ohio State's been very rich with wide receiver talent these last few years. So good for them. And then finally, one of the last things I wanted to talk about football-wise, college football-wise, is the coaching changes. The big one, Deion Sanders. I'd probably put that at number 2. Scott Satterfield leaving for Cincinnati is probably number 1, right? No, it's Deion's going to Colorado.
I thought you were serious at first. I was like, I don't care.
No, I saw that this morning. I'm like, really? Scott's going to Cincinnati? So Scott Satterfield's gone, but Deion Sanders going to Colorado, and he did it in very Deion fashion. He had all the cameras around when he told his players, and we saw the videos after their game. And then he goes into Colorado, and he had his meeting with the players. I didn't watch the press conference. Didn't care about the press conference. I watched the videos of him talking to the team. And, man, again, the most Deion fashion you can imagine. He told those guys – I meant to pull the video up, but I didn't know how to get it loaded up like Ricky does in here. He straight up told the Colorado players, and there was context I'm sure missing from the beginning part of that, which is look, if you're not doing the right things, if you're not ready to put in the work, if you're not ready to do all these things, maybe
If
it's
you're
time to hit the
not ready
portal.
to be Louis Vuitton luggage.
Yeah, that was my favorite part. He tells these kids, he says, go ahead and hit the portal because you're going to make more room for me and the guys that I'm bringing in that are smart and tough. And he tells them, he says, look, I'm coming with my own luggage and it's Louis. That's one of my favorite quotes ever. That's
It's
a
gonna
hell of a lot.
it's probably on a shirt already.
And I don't. What's so cool about Dion is I don't think that he has those things like pre-ready to go. I think those things are legitimately off the top of his head. I think he's that cool.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. He got some good recruits at Jackson State. He got stole Travis Hunter, number one player in the
Number one
country.
player.
So it won't surprise me if Travis Hunter goes to Colorado with him.
His son.
Yep, Shador.
Yeah, Shadur Sanders going to go play quarterback, I would imagine, for Colorado.
Yeah, he's got definitely some athletes from Jackson State. Like, but how many are you gonna break? Like,
Oh yeah,
at the end of the day, they're still Jackson State, and they're not a Power 5.
I don't think he
school.
was just talking about Jackson State. I think he was talking about the transfer portal.
Yeah, I'm
and
sure he's gonna be able to.
You've got guys lined up already. Trace Sanders, the former 5-star running back from Alabama, hit him up on Twitter yesterday and was like, "Hey, Unc, you got room for me?" Like, people want to go play for this guy already. So,
well, plus, like in a generally top heavy Pac-12 with Utah, USC, and Oregon, you could throw UCLA in there. They were good this year, and Chip Kelly has started to get it going at UCLA. But like other than that, like within like a year or two, like Colorado can easily be the third best team in the Pac-12. Like,
oh my God, yeah. And then guess what? After next year, UCLA and USC, two of the teams you mentioned above them, are gone. They're going to the Big Ten.
Right.
So he could very quickly be the premium team in the Pac-12.
And that program has a good tradition.
Oh yeah,
They won a yeah, I use like one. They won a national. They have won a national title.
had a Heisman
in
Trophy
in
winner in the
90s.
'90s.
So there is precedent there for Colorado to be good at football,
Mhm.
and they have that's a good like recruiting area too. Um, yeah, he should have no problem. I would be surprised if he doesn't have success there.
What was the thing?
Also, they went 1-11 this year, so like the bar is so low. Just
It's
win
so
like
true.
7. Just go to a bowl game just in year 1, and he'll be good.
So what was the whole? Was it the president? Was it the AD? Who was it at Jackson State that was saying that he's not swag? That he used him because he's leaving Jackson State. Dion's
I
not
think it
swag.
was
Was
the
it the fan?
president.
It was the president. Dion's not swag.
Well, that was Dion's whole thing was saying like of saying that about other people, saying that about other coaches that they're not swag, that they don't
Well,
represent the HBCU pride and community. So that was a whole big deal during the season, and they quickly flipped on that, which seems weird. Of like, dude, he's not going to stay at your school. Unfortunately, he's not going to stay at your school forever. He's too
how
big
could
of
you imagine that was ever going to happen? That
no.
Deion Sanders, if he's any bit of successful, which he was the most successful your program's ever been in the 3 years he was there, what made you think you had a legit shot at keeping that guy there? Just be thankful for the moments that he gave you and he presented with your program. Again, you won back-to-back SWAC titles and you had your first ever undefeated season.
And like even if you really wanted to get like outlandish with it and say like, oh, maybe in 10 like we continue to be really really good for 10 years and we get invited to like the AAC or something like that. That existed probably as a possibility, but that's like again, that's like 10 years down the line probably.
Right.
And you're like, is he gonna stay there for 10 years? Like that would be cool, but he's also Deion Sanders
Right.
and inherently is gonna look out for Deion Sanders.
And Colorado as well. Maybe not a career landing spot for a guy like Deion Sanders either. If he
Right,
goes
if he
there and has
continues,
success,
yeah.
like we're talking about,
Then you're looking at Florida State job or
oh
something like
God,
that.
yeah, something crazy like that. By the way, shout out to Mike Norvell, having a good year this year. When Dion was looking for a Power 5 job, kind of helped him a lot. He beat two SEC teams this year, beating LSU, who won the SEC West, and beat Florida this year.
Bookended the seasons.
Mhm.
Bookended the season with
Are they in a New Year's Six game?
No, they're not. They are in the Cheez-It. Oh, they play
They play Oklahoma in the Cheez-It Bowl.
Oklahoma.
That's right. Great. Oklahoma 6-6 gets to play what, a top 15 Florida State team?
Yeah, they might.
Cool.
They might kill Oklahoma.
Sweet.
That's in Orlando, and so it'll be a de facto home game for Florida State too. So good for you.
Awesome. Hey, at least Dylan Gabriel and those guys will probably play because
Surely.
they're coming back next year. That's what I was trying to think of something earlier that I had a thought that I wanted to talk to you and Ricky about. That I'm so curious that we're going to start seeing. What do we see right now during bowl season and teams that don't make the playoffs? We see guys that opt out because they're going to the next level, right? Like,
I have no problem with that.
Like Bryce Young. Bryce Young's probably going to the NFL, so he's probably not going to play in their bowl game.
Might be the number 1 pick.
Yeah, so he's opting out, right? But what happens? When are we going to start seeing? And I'm curious if we do. The playoff expanding here in a couple of years is going to prevent a lot of big names from doing this. But when are we going to see, like Dylan Gabriel's the reason I thought about this? Transfer quarterback, playing at Oklahoma. He's got another year of eligibility. He's not ready to go to the NFL. He's going to come back next year, solidified, right? What's stopping him from opting out of the bowl game and getting ready for next year? Like, are we going to see that happen? I'm curious if that's something that we're close to.
Especially if someone's just like even marginally banged up, you're not gonna risk that. Yeah, that's a good. I don't know. You don't really see that often because unless it's like a new coaching staff.
True.
I think then you're like you wanna show, especially the younger guys, that you want to get reps in the bowl game for like next season. But yeah, like does Dylan Gabriel need reps for?
Exactly. Like and Oklahoma's got a 5-star kid in Jackson Arnold coming in next year. But I mean, even Caleb Williams, who ended up not playing at Oklahoma, we knew that Lincoln Riley, by the time they played their bowl game against Oregon, wasn't even there anymore. Bob Stoops coached in that bowl game. Caleb Williams played that bowl game for Oklahoma and then decided he was going to transfer. He hit the transfer portal, decided he was going to go to USC in that long drawn out process.
That's fascinating too. I feel like it doesn't happen.
Yeah, and that's why I really still like Caleb Williams. I hate that he's playing for Lincoln Riley because I can't stand Lincoln Riley, but I want to see Caleb Williams do well. And I'm just using Dylan Gabriel as an example because he's a high profile-ish guy that's got to come back next year. Or that's going to come back next year. But when do we start seeing that? When do we start seeing guys who aren't draft eligible, but are obviously the guy, sit out in a meaningless bowl game just to come back next year?
Yeah, it depends on like where you're at.
Especially now that we're in the NIL days.
Yeah, if I think it kind of like in the quarterback, the high profile positions, like I could see it. But if it's like, I don't know, because does that look bad in your locker room?
Probably, yeah. I would imagine it absolutely does.
If you're like, this guy's fully healthy and he's going to sit out, I can't imagine it's going to happen a ton.
Yeah.
Unless the guy's a little banged up. Can we just point out that Jimmy Kimmel is sponsoring a bowl game?
Yeah, Jimmy Kimmel.
It's called the Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl.
I think Barstool got a game.
Yeah, so many of the bowl games are changing names. We have 2 Cheez-It Bowls, which is wholeheartedly absurd.
Hate that.
And they're both in Orlando to confuse you even more.
The
Cure Bowl. Is it the Cure Bowl sponsored by Cheez-It?
I think so, yeah. And then you have the Cheez-It Bowl.
Yeah, which are both in Orlando. So totally makes sense. And then these other that Outback Bowl is no more. No Bloomin' Onion or shrimp contest. It's the Relia Quest Bowl.
Sorry, Cole Kubelik.
I don't know what Relia
I don't know what
Quest
you can
is.
eat from Relia Quest, but
we
still have the Duke's Mayo
I got to
Bowl.
go through all the bowl games. I got to see what bowl
Who's getting the Mayo bat this year? I saw you
intrigue
scroll by the Duke's
Oh,
Mayo Bowl.
I did see something about that with the Duke's Mayo Bowl, which is in Charlotte?
I saw it. There
Where'd that go? That is in Charlotte. Maryland, NC State. Mike Loxley, Maryland's head coach, said he is more than willing to get dumped with mayo if they win that game.
Look, they about gave Shane Beamer a concussion last year with that. Maybe we should just get them to like do a handstand in it or something.
Duke's Mayo Bowl. Shout out to their social media team. They do a really good job. They posted a tweet like semi recently about like practicing our mayo dump this year, so we can drop it.
And then so it's either Mike Loxley or Dave Doran getting the mayo.
Yeah,
bath.
the thought of Dave. I feel like he's generally like a pretty serious guy.
Yeah,
Doran.
Loxley would be a lot better to get.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's see what else. Oh yeah, another bowl game I missed. It was the perfect sponsor and perfect bowl game. Perfect sponsor for the bowl game. The Bad Boy Mowers Gasparilla Bowl.
R.I.P.
Man, that was a good one.
I think it's just the Gasparilla Bowl now.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's Gasparilla sponsored by something, but
Does Bad Boy Mowers sponsor anything anymore?
I went to that bowl game last year.
Oh, really?
Actually, because Florida played UCF in it.
Very cool.
I think it was just Gasparilla there was no sponsor. You get a bunch that are like there's probably like a secondary sponsor on some of these, but it's like it's the Myrtle Beach Bowl or the Frisco Bowl or the New Mexico Bowl. They're just like names of the city as opposed to like I'm sure they have sponsors attached to them, but
So there's some more that we want to continue to do. I've actually decided. So I'm going to let Ricky when we come back. Don't worry, those of you that texted into the show on Friday to win today, we are going to do that. But we had some breaking news come up for us here that I have to go ahead and let you guys know. We mentioned at the beginning of the show that the light show was good to go. It is not. The light show has actually been canceled tonight as of like 18 minutes ago. It's not just because of the rain, but it's because it's going to continue throughout the night and get worse.
And even into tomorrow too. We have staff that works outside, like our parking staff and our some of our support staff here in the winter wonderland. So we don't want them to get wet and cold and get pneumonia.
I'm excited about that because I was supposed to work the fire pits tonight on the Winter Wonderland. So don't get me wrong. I want you guys to be able to come to the light show. I'm just excited I don't have to stay out in the rain for 4 hours tonight. So that part is fun. But I am sad that I won't get to drive Sprocket to the light show tonight. That's my responsibility too.
One more little nugget for whoever is still listening or will listen on the podcast and it is a full hour in and is somehow still listening. Bless you for doing that. Little teaser for this weekend. I don't think we've like officially announced it, but we'll get it out there for you. On this Sunday, December 11th, is the Orion capsule splashdown as part of the Artemis 1 mission with NASA. So they went up into space. The capsule is now going to splash down in the Pacific Ocean, I believe around 11:30 on Sunday, December 11th. We are having a watch party here at Toyota Field in conjunction with the Space and Rocket Center. So we're going to have a watch party. Be free, I believe. Keep an eye out for info on that on our social media channels. And maybe the Trash Pandas are also maybe releasing something else that day too. So keep an eye out on Sunday. We're not going to tell you what it is, but keep an eye out. We might have some special stuff for the 2023 season that we're also going to announce in conjunction with that.
We are going to have Sunday. A special announcement. Just pay attention. You're going to want to see this.
Keep an eye out.
Definitely keep an eye out. You're not going to want to miss that. In the meantime, go ahead and wrap this one up because now that the light show is not happening, I worked it on Saturday, which means I get to get out of here now. I get to go home. So I'm going to go home, pick up my son, and get him out of this rain as well. Lucas, thank you again for filling in for Ricky. Again, you're more than welcome to jump in here and make it a 3-man thing with us anytime you're free. But I know that you do have a lot going on, so thank you.
I need to have like a segment. I need to bring a segment to the table. Absolutely. Is kind of what I need to do, which it'll probably be something social media related, like dumbest tweets I saw this week or things of that nature. Because I think that would be funny.
That would be fun. And another one maybe you can assist me with that I pitched around to Ricky, and we did it once, and then he hasn't been on the last 2 days. I think a fun one would be because, people get heated with each other and they go back and forth, and then someone who doesn't deserve it ends up, getting made fun of for no reason. Like I saw athletes that happened to, just catching strays. You know what I mean? Like, so I'd love to do something like that, maybe semi recently or semi often.
Is the segment, are we just going to call it Catching Strays?
Yeah, Catching Strays.
Who caught an unnecessary stray this weekend?
Oh, it was the weekend before, and it was
that's a good
Willie Taggart. It was Willie Taggart catching strays. I mean, the dude got fired from USF. The fall from him. FAU. Yeah, exactly.
It was at USF.
FAU, the fall from it, goes to Oregon for a year, goes to Florida State, continues to drive that program into the ground, and then ends up going to replace Lane Kiffin at FAU and got fired. Was coaching Oregon and Florida State, and then just got fired from FAU.
Oh, I was going to say, the stray that he caught is like the day after, 2 days after he got fired was his son's birthday. His son is on the team at FAU, and the social media team, this is not to their fault, posted a graphic for that. It was like, happy birthday, Willie Taggart Jr. So everyone's just like, oh my gosh, his dad's catching strays for this. Like, that stinks.
That's beautiful.
Which it's all right. Like, it's
I love sports.
His son's on the team. You got to give him the birthday shout out. But yeah, he got roped into that.
That's amazing. I love sports so
catching
much.
strays. I like this.
But anyway, that's Lucas. I'm Tony Mack. Tricky Ricky will be back with us on Wednesday. We'll be live 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock. Christmas light show, no more tonight. We'll keep you posted on whether that will continue tomorrow. I know the weather's supposed to be bad this week, but if we can have it, we will absolutely
It's
have
like
it.
all
We will
this
let
week,
you know.
too.
Yeah,
Ugh.
it's going to be rough all week. So, again, no Christmas light show tonight, even though I said at the beginning of the podcast there was one. No Christmas light show tonight. That's Lucas. I'm Tony Mac. Tricky Ricky will be back Wednesday at 2 o'clock until 3. Until then, it's the Bullpen. We'll see you then.